Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I thought it was morning, but it's not morning. And I'm a minute late. Sorry, my dog just sneezed. I had to get my dog comfy. She's below me. Hello. So glad to be here again for I think it's my 21st or 20th day. You see my dog's nose right there? Hey, sweetie. Of my 30-day Facebook Lives. And I'm super excited that I made it this far because, to be perfectly honest, hi, everybody. To be perfectly honest, once I hit the live button, then I'm good. I don't know why, but then I'm good. I figure it out. I'm like, my brain is like, this is happening. You can't back out, so I'm good. But getting ready for it, I get all sorts of nervous for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe that's because I'm just used to pushing publish, right, or send to the publisher and to get my words out there, and I'm not used to getting ready to push go live. So the funny thing is that I don't know if I shared this on my very first one, that first day, which has been almost 3 weeks ago now. But oh my gosh, it took me an hour to push go live. It took me an hour. I was sweating everywhere. Anyway, I'm not sweating today. I'm super excited to be here every single day, and I welcome all of you who have come along for the ride, and all of you today who are new to my face and my words, welcome. Okay, just a reminder that my book is You're Still That Girl, Get Over Your Abusive Ex for Good, forever, forever, forever. We want you to move on because you've been through enough. And you're still young. I don't care how old you are. You're still young. And you have lots of time left. And it's never too late to move on for good. Anyway, my book will be in bookstores next year. I've mentioned this several times. But I have copies in my hand. Well, I have one copy in my hand. And I have several in lots of boxes here that you can't see. Anyway, to enter to win a signed copy that I will send to you, no cost to you, all you have to do is share one of my live videos. And the more you share it, the more entries you get. So some of you have been sharing a lot. I super appreciate that. And then on the last day of my Facebook Live, I will announce who wins. I may give away more. I don't know. Why not? Okay. For those of you who are new, I'm Susanna. Like I said, that's duh, because my name's right there. And I am a narcissist recovery coach, along with being a writer, helping one woman at a time. That is not, I don't even know why I say that. I gotta stop saying that. I say helping one woman at a time get over her narcissistic ex for good. Her abusive ex for good. That's not true. I help many women at a time. It's very easy to multitask that. We can help a lot of people at the same time. Okay. Hello to everybody who's joining. I think it's so cool that people can join all over the world. And I work with women all over the world. Literally, it's so amazing. I can't, my 70s, 80s brain still can't compute that. That we can reach out all over the world. Anyway, I'm sounding really old, but I'm not. I'm only 51. Okay, I made that clear yesterday that I'm going for 114. That's my plan. So start slowing down around 111. I figure, and by slowing down, I mean just parking myself in a vineyard and doing that. Okay. We are going to talk about, my desk is wobbling. We're going to talk about financial abuse today. I printed out the article that I wrote about financial abuse because I'll tell you something that you probably already figured out. I am a much better writer than I am an off-the-cuff speaker. I'm getting better at it, but this is all new to me. So there are a lot of things when it comes to these subjects that I rely on the words I've already written because they're very succinct and understandable for you to hear instead of me blah, 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 trying to get the words out. So some of this I will use the piece that I already wrote. Okay. Financial abuse. This is, yesterday I was talking about, and you all were talking in the comments too, and thank you for listening. I was talking about the double lives, the multiple lives of narcissists and all the masks that they wear, right? This is another one of them, is the financial abuse part of it. Now, financial abuse is at the core of all abusive relationships, whether it's with a narcissist or not. It's just at the core of abusive relationships, physical as well, because financial abuse, the financial aspect of the abuse is what keeps a victim in place and powerless. I know many of you that I've spoken with and who have reached out to me, and I'm sure, some of you who, maybe even some of you who are listening, have experienced this, where you've been in a relationship and by all accounts, it was all because of the money that you didn't leave. Like you were done with his sorry ass and you wanted to go, or you were in danger and you knew you needed to go, but the only thing that kept you in place and not leaving was the money, right? Because you weren't in control of it. You had had that taken from you. So financial abuse is like cancer, right? It's growing. You don't even know it's there until it's too late. It's insidious. And it starts, this is along the same lines as emotional abuse, right? Is that we don't recognize it because it doesn't come with black eyes and bruises that we can show people and that we can look in the mirror and go, oh, yeah, that's a black eye. I think I'm in a physically abusive relationship. So we don't have that with emotional abuse, with financial abuse. We don't see it. Oftentimes, I've said this a million times, as in the case with me, is that I didn't even know I was in an abusive relationship until, one, it was pointed out to me at the very end by a psychologist who was an expert in narcissism and diagnosed my husband at the time. And then right when I left, and I started looking back at the place that I had been put in because of the financial abuse in my marriage that I had no idea was going on. But I'll tell you what, financial abuse is the one type of abuse that you could literally be, struggling from the effects of that for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean that you can't move on and empower yourself and, like with me, for example, use myself as an example, getting to a place of emotional freedom and emotional detachment from my past. But the fact is that all these years later, I am still experiencing the effects of the financial abuse of the marriage, because when you have a marriage that is financially abusive, then you move into the divorce, which is an extension of being financially abused. And then you come out of all that just wiped out. That takes a long time, right? To get back on your feet, especially if you're a single parent, when you're a single mom. We already know, I pointed this out in one of my other videos, is that men come out of, just on average, we're not even talking about abusive men here. Men come out of divorce richer. Women come out significantly poorer from divorce. when you add in abuse to that situation, and when you add in the fact that your parents, that you have children, fathers come out significantly richer and mothers come out significantly worse off. So we're clear on that. It's like the Monopoly game, okay? Where you would think, so you're coming out of divorce and he goes that way and she goes that way. Okay, great. Even if it's, if it's just normal people, right? Like normal, healthy people. We're not talking about narcissists. But so you come out of a divorce, and because of the effects of financial abuse, think of the game, think of Monopoly, right? Everybody starts, this is what you would think. This is the stereotype. This is the myth that we've been buying into. And this is why single moms in particular, single parents who are women, suffer far more financial damage than men. It is a gender issue when it comes to that, if we're just talking about the basics. So it isn't Monopoly where we all start with the same amount and it's just a roll of the dice, right, to see who's going to progress around the board. No, more like after a divorce, after a financially abusive relationship, this is more what it looks like. Single mom is struggling to pay rent on Baltic Avenue, while single narcissist, right? Or he's not even single at that point, right? Because single mom has the kids. So narcissist is like already, investing in his Pennsylvania Avenue penthouse, and he's already lapped you a couple times around collecting his go money. That's what it looks like. And the reason is because within the marriage itself, or the relationship, the financial abuse starts really, it goes undetected in the beginning. I'm a perfect example of this, people. And I'm also a perfect example of, don't tell me that these are stupid women getting into abusive relationships, stupid and weak. No, we're not. I was a very strong woman before I got into this. I was smart. I was super good with money. I was frugal. Actually, when I met the narcissist, I taught him basic common sense things about money, because not only did I have my college degree, but I had been a business owner. So I knew about money. I knew about savings. I wasn't cheap. I was very frugal. I was just really smart with money. Flash forward 16 years after that, and not so much. So I even taught him things about money. For example, like what a budget was, and just basic accounting stuff that we learn in like 11th grade. Or at least that's the year I was in accounting. All right, so what financial abuse, because it starts just like emotional abuse, where it's just insidious, and it starts with these little tiny things that you don't give it too much attention to, just like you don't those red flags of emotional abuse, right? Because we've already been love bombed, so we already got the stars in our eyes. We're already sunk in love. Perhaps we even have children already. We're knee deep in marriage and business, all that stuff. So by the time that there are red flags too with financial abuse, but I didn't pay attention. My brain kind of turned to mush over that extensive amount of time of 16 years, hence the reason why you get to the end and you don't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. But in the beginning, I was really good with money. And then at the end, I was in a whole shitload of trouble with money. And when I escaped the marriage, first of all, even before going through and filing for divorce, it got worse. And then because he controlled everything, and I was at his mercy. And that's my phone, don't get that. and then filing for divorce. For all of you who have been through the divorce process, you know what happens to that money, honey, right? It's just whoever's got the power, they got the money. And so what that did was it just set me up for failure after failure after failure. And I'm not kidding, I'm still, which makes total sense because, again, we didn't start out at go with the same amount of money and the same chances in rolling the die, right? I was far behind. I was far, far, far behind while he was way ahead by the time we said, we're divorced. Okay, let's go shoot in different directions, right? Okay. I'm going to read this about financial abuse because I think it sums up perfectly what it is, what it looks like. And then I'm going to give you some real examples so that you can see if this is happening in your own life. Okay. This is me. This was, remember the double lives I was talking about of narcissists, right? So this is the double life that is being created, right? He's creating this life out here. So, and then I enforce that to people on the outside. So behind closed doors, there was the truth of what was going on. And then outside those closed doors, he put the mask on for whoever he needed, whatever. He had multiple lives depending if it was friends or acquaintances or family members or business people that he was dealing with. This is what on the outside it looked like. Okay, I was smart, educated, and well off. This is when I was in it. I lived in a beautiful 10,000 square foot home on 10 acres. It was so beautiful. I designed it. I picked the plan. It was beautiful. I don't know if it's still beautiful, but it was beautiful. At the foot of I'm not going to say where it was. Y'all know where I used to live. I had 3 boys and was married to a charismatic self-starter who had a reputation for being a go-getter, a talented and inventive man whose self-sufficiency was known to all. It's true. Everybody knew him to be like he could do anything. He could learn how to do anything. He could fix anything. We started businesses together. We bought and flipped houses with tremendous success. We were landlords of several apartment complexes. We owned and operated a thriving dance studio. Shall we dance? Ballroom. We created that together. I don't have it anymore. I was plucked out. I was replaced. And we were well known in our small town as the couple who got things done and had it all. Right? That's what it looked like from the outside. And we were also masters of continuing our charades so that the dirty little secret I was keeping could stay just that, a secret. Financial abuse is like underground warfare. The battle is being waged, but many times it's unbeknownst to the victim since there is no clear and present danger. So it took me over 16 years to recognize the abuse, not only the emotional abuse, but the financial abuse. And because of that, I'm just reading comments, don't want to miss anything. Hi, everybody. And because of that, I am still feeling the effects today, even though my divorce was final 3 years ago. Whatever. Oh, that was a good day, by the way. That was a good day. I celebrated. Anyway, I digress. The point is that because of all these very small things with money, and some of them big things, but most of them were small things with money. And the reason I want to give you some examples is because I want you to see this, if this is something that you experienced. First of all, the reason I want to do this with financial abuse is that for those of you women who are really struggling, if you're a single mom and you came out of an abusive relationship and you are just like every day is a struggle and you just never think you're gonna get above water, right? You're you're just treading water and, you know, one breath away from drowning. I want you to know that it's because you were set up to a place to fail. You were set up by the narcissist who abused you. You were set up to hopefully fail. You're not gonna fail. It's gonna feel like you're gonna fail. But specifically speaking of just the money aspect of this, right? The reason I'm doing this is because it's really important for women out there to understand that this is not something that is a character flaw of you. It's not because you don't work hard enough. It's not because you're making wrong decisions. It's not because you're stupid or can't figure it out or whatever else. It's because the system, first of all, is set against you. So you started out coming out of an abusive relationship or an abusive marriage and then an abusive divorce, right? Because many divorces are, if you're with a narcissist, it's an abusive divorce. So you come out 20 steps behind, right? Like if there's a race, everybody is miles, you know, the narcissist is like miles and miles ahead of you. To catch up is financially speaking, is really difficult. So that's what I want to, if I can express any message to you out there who, and I'm kind of just saying what I wish somebody would have said to me back in the day when I was, you know, God, I was beating myself up. I felt like such a failure, you know, because I had been so successful in the marriage, and then I come out and I have to start all over in my mid-40s as a single mom. And anyway, like I said, still struggling today, financially speaking, to catch up in the race. So that if nothing else, and that's why I'm sharing this, because I don't want you to feel like, because our society is already kind of demonizes single moms in particular, right? Right? I mean, you don't have a man, you have a broken family, sister, you're flawed. That's all bullshit. I hope you know that's bullshit, but that's the culture that we live in, right? That it's a system that is not set up to help single moms, and it's definitely not set up to help survivors of abuse, especially at the hands of narcissists. So that's why I'm doing this. Okay. Okay, so some of these smaller things, you know, for example, like, and it may sound silly, and if this were one instance in the whole marriage, you know, then it's just somebody being an asshole, like we talked yesterday. Sometimes, while all narcissists are assholes, not all assholes are narcissists, if that makes sense. Some people just like, you know, maybe they're having a bad day and they're an asshole, but then the next day they're not anymore. They fix it, you know. So some of these things may seem small, and if they were just in the moment itself, they would be small, and it'd be something like, okay, but the next day it didn't happen again, right? So for example, one of the things, like I already said, I was really frugal with how I spent money. But I wasn't cheap by any means, and I like certain things as far as, this sounds so stupid. Like I would go to Walgreens and, you know, I'd get like shampoo and conditioner that, you know, probably were like $8 each. I lived in a 10,000 square foot house, people, right? Like I think I can splurge on an $8 bottle of shampoo. I can't tell you the amount of times I'd come home with my bag. Plus I had, you know, I had to pay for my birth control, which is like $90 a month. And just other, I don't know, women, you get it, right? Like I'm not going to Neiman Marcus to buy this shit. I'm going to fucking Walgreens. There was always a comment. There was always a comment because he used ivory soap for everything. Like he used it to wash his hair. which is the secret reason I thought that he was going bald at the time. Because I'm like, I don't think that's good for your hair or your scalp. I think you're scrubbing it out. I could be wrong. This isn't a scientific opinion. But so there was always a comment, you know, of how much money I spent. I mentioned the other day of how when we would go, let's say, for a large purchase together, whether, you know, especially with a car, because most car salesmen are male. So they have to do the Tarzan, I don't know. It's like between a man or a narcissist and a male car salesman, there's some sort of Tarzan beating their chest thing going on that us little women shouldn't get involved with, right? Which is just pipe down. You get too emotional, ladies. Just let me, you know, shit like that. I actually am a really good car buyer. I actually really am, because I'm really smart about that stuff, and I can I can see through the car salesman. Oh, that's a whole other topic, isn't it, of how male car salesmen treat women. Telling ya. Okay, here's one of the bigger things that ended up over the course of 16 years. Wow, this set me up for the big time failure overall, was that I had an allowance. He called it a budget, but considering that he controlled our income, the money that came in, even though we were both in these businesses together, right? But I also stayed at home with our kids, because when they were young, I stayed at home and I did work from home, but he controlled, you know, the actual money coming in. So I had one account that he would every month put in X amount of money. Okay, this is not a budget. This is an allowance, right? Yeah, so that really set me up over the years. And one of the reasons, and of course, if I couldn't stay within the budget, it was a whole thing. It was a whole lecture. Now, the interesting thing is that at the same time, he's constantly lecturing me about, I'm spending too much money, we don't have any money. He's also putting fear into, this is another thing narcissists do, is he was constantly putting us, me and the kids, especially my oldest, he would hear it a lot. Every month, when he would put that money into my account, my allowance, he gave me my allowance, there was always a little lecture attached and a little fear stuck in there. Something to the effect of, we're on the verge of losing it all, so be careful. You know, it was always fear-based. Even though you know, usually I just sat back and I'm like, okay. But at the time, I had a very active voice in my head, like, you know, that I would argue with him or like just tell him, you're such an idiot. But I didn't say these things out loud. So I would think in my head, you know, I think logically, like, because I'm looking around at our 10,000 square foot house on 10 acres. The fact that we can take all these, you know, vacations, the fact that he went often to his home country and brought boatloads of cash with him. He liked to carry $100 bills. He had them in his office. He just had a lot of cash on hand all the time, but especially when he went traveling, and he did a lot of that traveling without me toward the end. So just logic was like, and he'd say things like, you know, we're a target for living in such a big house. So what is this telling me? Me who's staying home alone in this huge house with, I think we had 58 fucking windows, okay? And I don't even know how many doors, because there were especially in the basement and then the middle, I don't even know how many doors. But at night I would go around and I would check every single window that somebody could possibly crawl in. This is how scared I was, even though that was not going to happen. We lived in a small town that's very safe, but it was this fear that he instilled in me. So this allowance, this is what it was supposed to cover. Everything. Here's what happened. I had one credit card. I was allowed one credit card. And again, during this time, and I was taking care of all of our business, like for one of our businesses, all of our finances and income and plus all of our personal finances. I was very good at this. I got an A in accounting. I'm very good at this. And yet I couldn't still make it work when I had an allowance of X amount of money. And if there was anything that came up that was a surprise cost, usually it was something medical because we didn't have insurance at the time. Well, we had like catastrophic insurance. I think I've said this before. So like if I got hit by a bus, I guess it would pay like 5% of that. You guys know how bad insurance is. So it was useless. So if we had, you know, unbeknownst medical bills, or I went back to school to get my master's, which was, you know, school is expensive. I couldn't finish because of the expense. The other thing so I had this one credit card, and what happened is I had to pay for it out of my allowance. Now, he had, I don't know how many credit cards. I couldn't tell you. But he would pay his off every month, all of them. So when we traveled together, and we traveled a lot, went on lots of vacations and family trips and stuff like that, when we did that together, when he was on it, he would pay for everything with his credit card. This is over 16 years. He would pay for everything, all hotel, flights, food, you name it. Disneyland, whatever it is, he's putting it on his credit card, which at the end of the month he would pay off, no matter how much it was. It was $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, he'd pay it off. If I went on a trip with the kids or came to see my mom in Arizona, I would have to get that out of my allowance every month. At the end, I couldn't do that, right? I didn't have enough money. I couldn't take that out of my allowance. So I ended up paying just the minimum payment. So my credit card starts growing. Another reason my credit card would grow is because, and I had a really high limit on this one credit card, which was good to cover all my. The other way that it grew was every Christmas. So every Christmas, I was responsible for his family, my family, kids, other kids. I was responsible for everybody's Christmas present. And he would always tell me, hey babe, just go, you do it. You're great at this. You know, I want you to take care of it because you're so good at this. So I would and he had, remember I told you because he had lived under an alias and told me this was his mom and it wasn't his mom, but it was kind of his mom. And then he had a sister, but it wasn't really a sister. And he actually had other sisters. Anyway, it's very confusing at Christmas. So I had a lot of shopping to do. And he would just give me free rein, just go, you do it. And I love Christmas. So I would make sure everybody was taken care of in the best way, his family and mine. Okay, that was all great. And then comes January. You know what happens in January? I get the bill on my credit card, right? Because that's what happens. You spend in December for Christmas, and then you get the bill in January. And I would have to take it out of my allowance, which of course I didn't have. So every January after Christmas, I would have a small meltdown because my credit card is going up and up and up. And I just had this one credit card. It got to a point where the year or 2 years, I think it was the year before I left the first time, it was in December, and I had a major breakdown and told him, and I was crying, and I'm like, I can't do this. This isn't fair because I know come January, I'm not going to be able to pay this off. And he's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. It's going to be all right. I'll take care of you. January comes, he didn't fucking take care of me. My credit card was maxed out. So these are the things where, do you see how helpless I was becoming? Because even though we had lots of money, I did not have access to this money. The other thing was that we had so many businesses that it got to a point over the years, I don't even know how many banks we dealt with, because we would buy and flip houses, and we had apartment buildings, and everything was, I always needed to go in and sign. So it got to the point where I would just literally walk into the bank, to one of 4 or 5 banks that we had, that we would go to, and just sign. I didn't know what I was signing. I would just sign because I trusted him. This was still at a time, you don't know the bigger picture. You don't know, I didn't know there was a smear campaign. I didn't know I didn't know he was grooming young girls, to replace. I didn't know he was a sexual predator. I didn't know these things at the time. So of course I didn't know, what, I still trusted him. Okay, there's like a million red flags that you see when it comes to the finances. They could be smaller things, they could be bigger things, like the thing with my credit card. So my credit card grew. When I left him the first time, it was maxed out. And so, and I was dependent on him because I only had one checking account, and he would put money into it, right? And then especially during the divorce, and I was dependent on him to put in money. I lived at that time in another, 3 states away. I was completely dependent on him to put in money. So when I had to ask him for money, and this was the same in the marriage, a lot of you women know this, we have to become very talented at asking. So I could get money from him if I did certain things. One of them is that I would have to be, if I had to go to him for a reason, like I had an unforeseen expense, I knew that I would have to approach it. I couldn't just go up like, guess what, an adult, like a grown-ass woman that I am. I couldn't go to him and just say, hey, I had an unforeseen. I shouldn't have even had to go to him. I should have just gone to our account and get the money, and right? I didn't know these things at the time. I was just dependent on him. So I'd have to go to him, and I'd have to do the whole suite, and because I knew I was trained very well. I learned quickly how to go to him and ask him for things and ask him for extra money. If I did it the right way, he was always very generous. It was either some sort of me acting like a little girl, and that he was, oh, will you please give this to me? Please, please, please. I'll do whatever you want. And you know where that leads, right? We all know where that goes. That's what I did. He always came through, but I had to do the dance, right, to get that money. This is financial abuse. I'm just reading the comments. The problem with financial abuse, what happens is that I got to a place where I was so incredibly dependent on him. And then when you throw in the fact that I was emotionally a mess, was depleted, right? In an emotional coma that I put myself in. So I also didn't have the strength to fight him on a lot of these issues. There were some times that I would fight back, but it always ended up bad for me. When I stood up to him, no matter what the issue was, it always ended up bad for me. Because even if I just got the silent treatment, which was horrible in itself, that would go on for days, there was always some sort of consequence or punishment for standing my ground or going to battle with him. So it got to a point after that many years where it's like, okay, yeah, uncle, right? I say uncle, I give up. I just, whatever, you do it, whatever. When I left, here's where it got awful, because when I left, I was set up to fail, right? I had no control for our money. And we had made lots of money together over the years. We were in a very good financially stable position. Again, this is how fathers come out significantly richer and mothers come out significantly poor, right? Out of divorce. There was no dip in his income with a divorce or anything. There was no dip. In fact, there was a rise, because now he doesn't have, I always say, now he doesn't have mouths to feed, except for his little Russian child bride. But as I say, she's super tiny. Like, she's smaller than me, so she probably doesn't eat much. My father would say that's me being mean. I'm not being nice when I say that. Okay. I'm not taking it back, people. So I was set up. This is what I did afterward. What I'm still doing is I'm just trying to catch up. That's it. I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm trying to catch up. Unfortunately, being in a financially abusive relationship, and this is also, in my case, I did, thank God, because I know so many women don't. I did have the help of my mother, where I could, I left and I moved in with her, and I had a safe place to stay, and I could bring my kids, and we could start our new lives over. And all of that. I was really, really fortunate to have that, because so many women do not have a place to go. And when you have no money, or when you have no access to your money because they're controlling it, then it becomes nearly impossible. I can't tell you how many women I've talked to where it's like, I would leave. I don't know where to go. I've got kids. Like, how do I live in my car? I don't know where to go. This is why financial abuse is so devastating, especially for women. It's so devastating. Not to mention, it ties into what a narcissist does anyway, with the gaslighting you and making you feel crazy. It got to the point where that's how I felt. I felt like not only was I a failure, but I was a dunce when it came to money. And look at him. He's doing fine. He's doing great. So I was pretty hard on myself for that. And then going through a divorce with a lawyer that did not advocate for me. Okay, I need to breathe here. I don't have regret, because I learned a lot, and that's why I can share it with all of you. Okay, I don't have regret, but fucking A. I wish I would have made different choices, because my life, financially speaking, would have been so much easier today. Again, this goes back to another topic that I already talked about divorcing a narcissist, why it's so important to get an awesome lawyer who has your back and who knows how to handle high conflict divorce cases, right? Super important. That is an investment into your attorney. If you've got a great attorney, that is an investment, because it's going to save you. It's either going to save you if you have a great attorney, or it's going to cost you, like it did me. It cost me tens of thousands of dollars. Don't do this. Don't do what I did. Don't do it. That's why I'm here talking about it. So Sunny's asking, how do we know which attorney to choose? This is something that you have to advocate for yourself. Why it's hard for women to advocate when they're coming out of an abusive relationship, especially with a narcissist, is because we're beaten. We're emotionally drained. We're emotionally beaten. So we go to the first lawyer, and we don't know what, up from down, and we're not a lawyer, so we don't know what to expect. We also go in it with the illusion of, oh, the narcissist he won't really hurt me, or all of that gets us into trouble. So you really need to just get in touch with your gut instinct, with your intuition, and feel people out. Just like you would go to a therapist. If you go to a therapist and right away you don't feel safe with them, or you feel like they're victim blaming you, or you just feel something's off, don't fucking go to them. Don't give them your money. Same thing with an attorney, right? Ask them questions. Tell them, hey, I think or I know that my ex is a narcissist. What I'm afraid of is A, B, C, D. Tell them what you're afraid of. This is what's most important to me, da, da, da. I think he's capable of this. You know, just make it very clear and see what their response is. If they're like, meh, just give me your money, don't. And unfortunately, they're, you know, I mean, lawyers have a bad reputation for a reason. I don't want to generalize. You know, there's good attorneys out there. Not generalizing, but or yeah, like Jan is pointing out, because you don't have access to your money, you can't even afford a lawyer, right? Because, okay, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this? So for those of you who, you know, you're out, it's, you already experienced the financial abuse, you're struggling now. Like I said at the beginning, the reason I'm doing this is because I want just to send the message to you that this is not an epic fail on your part. You were set up to a place where to fail, right? So success is possible for you, but it's gonna be harder. It's going to be harder, like it was for me, financially speaking. It was much harder because I wasn't starting at the start line. I wasn't starting at the beginning. I was starting from way behind. I was already like super far behind. And then I'm trying to catch up just to even pass the start line. But you know, what I did, the mistake that I made was I thought that there was inherently something wrong with me when it came to the money, you know, because I thought, okay, I'm in this horrible place, financially speaking. How am I ever going to dig out of this hole, you know, get myself out of this hole? And for some reason, I blamed it on myself that I was in that hole to begin with, which is a load of crap, right? That hole was dug for me. Okay. Why I wanted to, you know, just focus on financial abuse is because if you are currently, or also for future relationships, this is super important. This is for future relationships. 2, to protect yourself. As women, we are not taught, men, boys are taught how to take care of themselves. That's actually a priority, right? You get a job, you do this, you do da, 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 right? Women are not taught that. In fact, we're also taught, or it's modeled for us, even if it's not directly taught to us, but it's modeled that when you get into a relationship, somehow the man, if it's a relationship between a man and a woman, somehow the man is the one in control of the money and the woman is, you know, in control of the home. I mean, granted, this is, you know, changing every single day, the farther we get away from the 1950s. But we still have a long way to go because there's still a sense of, like, even in my case, you know, that's what had been modeled for me, that even though I was equally responsible for our income, for bringing that income in, there was nothing with my name on it because, you know, you don't write out checks to 2 people. So it was all, you know, so in a sense, when I first went into the divorce process, I was in a place of, well, I was just a stay-at-home mom, and I didn't give myself enough credit that he could have never had the financial success without me. Likewise, I couldn't have had it without him. We had great financial success together, and I didn't take ownership of that. And these are things that, you know, going into future relationships, first of all, these are red flags because it's all about control. If somebody wants to control how you spend money, if they make comments about your, you know, money, if they want to just in any way enforce some sort of control over you when it comes to money, that's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. This would be my tip to all women in there, and I know there's not a whole lot, if not probably none here, of women like just turning 20 or in their early 20s going into relationships and marriage. Keep your own secret account. Don't tell anybody. Keep it. Why not? Here's the thing, people, even if we're not talking about abusive marriages, which is very prevalent. Abuse is very prevalent within marriages. It's like 1 out of 4 women are abused in some form or another. But even so, when you're going into that, when you're going into a place of marriage, the statistics are that 50% of us will get a divorce anyway. So to all you girls out there, young women, that would be my advice. It'll save you a lot of heartache later on. There's nothing wrong with having a little secret, just for your future, for yourself, in case, no matter, either for a rainy day or for a bad day, or if something happens, right? Okay. I wish we could, financial abuse, I cannot underestimate the damage that it does. Again, it keeps women in a position of helplessness and powerlessness, unable to leave. Like I said, I was lucky because I had this outside help that I could leave. But in so many cases, women have to stay. And even when they do leave, it's just hard as hell to try to just make it, in the barest sense of the word. And then the long-lasting effects is that we're just, again, we're so far back that it takes a long time and it's really hard to catch up. It's really hard. So that's why, again, the main thing is I just wanted all of you all you single moms out there especially, my hat's off to you, because I know how hard it is. Years later, one day I will catch up. Damn it. I will. But, it's not easy. And I just want y'all to know that it's not because there is anything inherently wrong with you. You haven't done anything wrong. In fact, if you're a single mom and you got kids and you got them out of an abusive marriage, you've done everything right. Everything right. So kudos to you. Okay. I appreciate all of the comments. I'm going to go back in afterwards and read them all. Before I leave today, I am going to, remember, if you share my videos, I'll put you in a drawing for a signed copy of my book that I'll mail to you. And until then, if you'd like, because my book won't be in bookstores until next year, so I'm going to put in my website here. And you can go to my website in the comments. And you can get a free copy of, it's an ebook. Like, read it on your computer or on Kindle. Also on my computer. Also on my website, you can read more of my own story. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach me there on the homepage. There's a place if you want to talk, if you want to chat. I'm here for you. It's always good to talk to somebody who's been there. Again, I say this all the time. We're on the same journey. I just happen to be farther along, so I have that hindsight and perspective of what it takes to. I'm just here. My purpose is to help y'all not make every mistake that I did. If I can do that, recovery and healing after a narcissist is hard enough. So if I can save you from, all the mistakes that I made and that I could have possibly, I don't have regret now, but there was a time when I was going through boatloads of regret. So that's why I'm here, is to just hopefully save you from making those mistakes that I did, and learning those lessons that will help you get on the fast track of healing and recovery. It's true. You get on the fast track. It's still hard. It's still like going into labor, but it's like, you want to go into labor and have, you know, some women are like, yeah, my labor lasted 72 hours and it was all pain. Or you hear those like my mother, who's like, nah, a couple hours and came out. So it's still painful, but let's vote for the shorter recovery and healing period. I vote for that. So you can reach me there. Okay, I'm also going to put in my piece, part of which I read from today, because there are a lot more you know, red flags and stuff to look for, and a couple more things that I shared about my own. I know he just wishes I would stop talking, Suzanne. Just stop talking. Okay, I'm also going to share the Eventbrite calendar. Chris Godinez and I, we go around the country talking all things narcissists with small groups of people. We'll be in Reno September 14th, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. I'm really excited for that. And if you're anywhere in the area, please come. I'd love to meet you in person, give you a hug. You can give me a hug. I love hugs. And what we do, and you can see where we are even after Reno on the calendar. We limit it to small groups of people. It's a safe place where you can come and be around other people who share your experience. And, you know, no fence sitters there, no victim blamers there, and just get some guidance and support for what you're going through. So if you are in the area, I'd love to see you. Our last 2 events sold out only because it is a very small group, but it's a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon. So if you're thinking about coming, then get a ticket. So I want to see you wherever we go. We're going other places too. I think Texas at some point, and other places. All right. I'll see y'all tomorrow for my whatever day it is going to be. But we're winding down. I'm winding down here in my Facebook Lives. This is so much fun. I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow. For all of you, I always want to leave with the message of, for those of you who are struggling today, right? Like right now, you're just in it. I want to send you, you know, from my heart to yours, hope and strength. If you're feeling hopeless, I'm sending you hope. If you're feeling weak, I'm sending you strength. You will get through this, and there is a better life waiting for you, and that you deserve on the other side. It's waiting for you, and it's never too late. It's never too late to go after it and go for it. Okay, I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Ciao, ciao. Brown cow.